Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Newberry Mayor Foster Sins.
Welcome to Newberry. We are glad you are here. We are always proud to be part of the American election process in Newberry and at the historic Newberry Opera House, which in its history has seen many important election debates and events. We add to that today. We are proud to welcome Governor Nikki Haley back to Newberry. We appreciate her outstanding work as governor and are proud of her many accomplishments, including some that started right here. For the governor's race of 2010, the first significant event was the first Republican debate, which was held at the Newberry Opera House. Like today, there was lots of excitement, and it was televised statewide. And Governor Haley, I don't think she would mind me saying, was not one of the leading candidates at that point. She was an underdog. But then the debate started, and she nailed it. Afterwards, I remember being outside, right out here, talking to a very conservative friend of mine, and the first thing he said was, "I really like Nikki Haley." Other people thought that as well, and she started building momentum from here through the campaign and eventually was elected governor. Then as governor, with the emphasis on the economy and jobs, one of her first big economic events shortly after she was inaugurated, she came back to Newberry, this time for the annual South Carolina Rural Summit to talk with rural leaders from around the state who were gathered here. She talked about how she grew up in a small town and cared about rural places. She spelled out how she and her team at Commerce Department were going to work with rural officials to bring new jobs to every county of the state, and it was time to work together. Momentum grew, and with her leadership over the next years, there are many new job announcements throughout South Carolina, including in Newberry County. We are appreciative, and we thank Governor Haley. For Governor Haley, I see a pattern. When she started something new, whether it was her governor campaign or implementing her economic plan for job creation, she came to Newberry at the beginning, and then it's been most successful. So when I heard her bus tour is going to start today in Newberry and then set off across the state, I said, I have seen this work before. So we thank Governor Haley for coming to Newberry and are honored to have her here. We are also glad to have with us our friend Congressman Ralph Norman. Congressman Norman was elected to Congress in 2017 and represented much of Newberry County working on issues we had. And he has continued to stay in touch with us even after new congressional lines were drawn in 2022. He's always working to help the people he represents, including, he surprised me, he'll give you a cell phone number, tell you to call you if you have a problem, and then he'll answer the phone. That's the kind of friend Congressman Norman is. We are glad to have Congressman Norman back in Newberry and welcome him to Newberry today.
Hello, Newberry. It is great to be here. You know, I represented Newberry up until last year, and I love the people here. You're great people, and I actually wish I had you back. But thank y'all for what you're doing. Thank you for being here. You could be anywhere, but you're here today to support my good friend, Nikki Haley. Before I introduce Nikki, let me have Chief Goodman up here. Come up here. You know, law enforcement is under attack today, and what you do is so unbelievable. They don't do it for the money. They do it, and I just want to say thank you, and I want to give you my congressional coin. I got the nicest coin in Congress. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me just tell you, I get the question everywhere I go, why are you supporting Nikki Haley? Nikki and I came in the State House in 2005, where she beat a 30-year incumbent that nobody said she could beat. When she was in the House, as a freshman, she took on the establishment. That's why the establishment is not behind her, nor will they be in Washington, D.C. When she was governor, no one said she could win governorship, not once but twice. When she was governor, we had the best 7 years until she went to the United Nations that has ever been in South Carolina. She promoted business. She cut regulations. She cut bureaucrats out of a job. And folks, what she's done, she will do in Washington, D.C. And I will tell you, And let me tell you, she's not getting out. She does not want the VP. She wants to represent you. And I will tell you, what's going on in Washington is evil today. She will be a shining light among 80-year-olds, which we have got to have, as Nikki said, competency tests. She's 52 years old. And folks, she will work rings around anybody that I've ever known. She did in the State House, she did as governor, and she will do the same thing when she gets the president. How many of you have heard Nikki Haley before? Raise your hand. Okay. Those of you who haven't, you watch her and you see how she is. She's who we need to attract people to help conservatives like myself. She's who we need to promote ideas that will make this country great, like oil independence, like supporting our police, and like getting this border cleaned up. She will do that. She's got the two words that I told the Wall Street Journal that really describe Nikki: courage and determination. So let's give a great Newberry welcome to my friend, Nikki Haley.
It's a great day in South Carolina. It's so good to see all of you here. First of all, Chief, thank you. My team said you really rolled out the red carpet and took care of everything. We appreciate you. Thank you very, very much. Mr. Mayor, this town is as sweet and beautiful as it's ever been. Thank you for taking good care of it. Ralph, one of the most conservative congressional members in D.C., he's never forgotten who he works for. Ralph, thank you for fighting a good fight. We appreciate you. You know, this is what I'll tell you. Think about what we did together. Go back to 2010. We had 11% unemployment. We had thousands of people on welfare. South Carolina was the butt of the jokes. And we got to work. By the time I left, we were building planes with Boeing. More BMWs than any place in the world. We brought in Mercedes-Benz. We brought in Volvo, 5 international tire companies, and they were referring to us as, yes, the beast of the Southeast. We passed tort reform and pension reform, but we also acknowledged some truths. We said if you have to show picture ID to buy Sudafed, if you have to show picture ID to get on a plane, you should have to show picture ID to protect the integrity of the election process. We passed voter ID in South Carolina. We passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. President Obama sued us over it, and we won. And by the time we finished, that 11% was down to 4%. We announced jobs in every county in the state. We were named the friendliest state in the country, the most patriotic state in the country, and don't blame me for this one, the number 2 state in the country people were moving to. And now I'm running for president. And look at the past year. So today is, it's almost a year since I announced. We started with 14 people in the race. We've defeated a dozen of them. We just got one fella left to go. We had 2% in Iowa. They said we weren't going to get anywhere. We ended up with 20% in Iowa. Then we went to New Hampshire. They said that I was 30 points down, and we got 43% of the vote. What's more important is Donald Trump, the Republican incumbent, did not get 43% of the vote. That's very telling. Then you look at what happened the night of New Hampshire, and Trump literally threw a temper tantrum on stage. He talked about revenge. Then the next day he said anybody that supports Nikki Haley is barred permanently from MAGA. We had fun with that. We sold some T-shirts that said barred permanently. We sold 20,000 T-shirts when we did that. And then the next day he pushed the RNC to name him the presumptive nominee. And we said we don't do coronations in America. He got pushed back and had to walk it back. And then he had a court case that he lost. And all he did was talk about being a victim. What bothers me out of all of that, whether it was the night of New Hampshire, whether it was after that court case, at no point did he talk about the American people. At no point did he talk about the $34 trillion in debt. At no point did he talk about the fact that only 31% of 8th graders in our country are proficient in reading. At no point did he talk about an open border where it only takes one person to cause a 9/11 moment. At no point did he talk about the lawlessness in our streets. And at no point did he talk about the wars happening around the world. All he did was talk about himself. And then the campaign disclosures come out, and we see he spent $50 million in campaign contributions on his personal court cases. Think about that. So now, things went even further. You go further than that, and Republicans had a really bad day. Trump lost his case on immunity. He's not going to be held immune for being president for any of the cases coming up. The second thing is Republicans lost a vote on the border. They lost a vote on a pro-Israel bill. The RNC chair lost her job. What is happening? And the reality is, hard truths. I've always spoken to you in hard truths. I'm going to do that today. I voted for Donald Trump twice. I was proud to serve America in his administration. But the reality is, chaos follows him. And you know I'm right. On that day of all those losses, he had his fingerprints all over it. And we can't be a country in disarray and a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. We won't survive it. And now you look at what's happened with Biden. I said this before, and everybody in the media lost their minds over it. I will say it again. Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee. He is not. You look at what happened a couple of days ago. Now you have the special counsel saying that he's got a bad memory, that he's not mentally stable or competent. And he can fight it all he wants. But I have said there will be a female president of the United States. Hard truth, it's either going to be me or Kamala Harris. You look at any of the election polls, the general election polls, Trump is on a good day even with Biden, margin of error. But in a lot of those polls, he's down 5, he's down 7, he's down 9. I'm in every one of those same general election polls, and I defeat Biden by up to 17 points. Do you know what that means? That means if you win by double digits, that's a mandate going into D.C. to stop the wasteful spending and get our economy back on track. That's a mandate to get our kids reading again and going back to the basics in education. That's a mandate to secure our borders, no more excuses. That's a mandate for law and order in our country, and that's a mandate for a strong America that prevents wars, not starts wars, that we can all be proud of. Don't you want that? Because we could have that. But in order to have that, it's going to take a lot of courage. Courage from everyone here today. Courage for me to run. And courage for every one of you to know, don't complain about what happens in a general election if you don't vote in this primary. It matters. You know, 7 months ago, I dropped my husband, Michael. You might remember he deployed to Afghanistan when I was governor. I dropped my husband, Michael, at 4 a.m. 7 months ago for another year-long deployment. And I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they'd never been, all in the name of protecting America. They're willing to sacrifice their lives and their families because they still believe in this amazing experiment that is America. So if they're willing to sacrifice for us there, shouldn't we be willing to fight for America here? Because we have a country to save. This election is about a choice. Now, first of all, I'll say, you all know friends and family who only vote in general elections. In a general election, you're given a choice. In a primary, you make your choice. We need everybody to vote in a primary. In this primary, you have a choice. Your choice is, do we want more of the same, or do we want something new? More of the same is not just Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. More of the same is Donald Trump. 70% of Americans have said they don't want a Trump-Biden rematch. The majority of Americans disapprove of Joe Biden. The majority of Americans disapprove of Donald Trump. Do we really want to have the 2 candidates that are running for president to be 2 men in their 80s? We need someone who can put in 8 years, go in, clean out D.C., clean out government, and get the job done. That's what we need to do. And, you know, I saw Trump, when he first kind of was getting into this, he surrounded himself by all the political elite in D.C., every one of the congressional members. And someone said to me, well, what do you have to say about that? You know, all that. I said, they're never going to want me because I think we should have term limits in Washington, D.C. They don't want me because I've said we need to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75. They don't want me because I don't think that congressional members should be able to trade in the stock market. They don't want me because I've said if they can't get us a budget on time, which they've only given us 4 in 40 years, then they shouldn't get paid. And then we had the South Carolina elite all go around Trump. And they said, but tell me why. Why is the South Carolina governor supporting Donald Trump? And I said, oh, you mean the one I defeated when I ran for governor? And they said, but what about the legislature and the fact that they're not with you? And I said, oh, the same ones that I forced to have to show their votes on the record because they were hiding behind voice votes? Or those that I made disclose their income so you saw who paid them? Or those where I vetoed $500 million in pet projects because that's not how taxpayer money needs to be spent? Yeah, you can have them. And then they asked about Tim Scott. I'm just going to let that one go. You have to sleep with your decisions. We'll let him sleep with that one. This comes down to the fact you deserve better. That's what this is. Here I saw Donald Trump the other day, and he went on mentioning Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley, and was talking about the fact that I didn't have security at the Capitol on January 6th. I've never been in charge of security at the Capitol. I've never even had a job in D.C. I certainly wasn't there on January 6th. Turns out he got me confused with Nancy Pelosi. But this goes back to the fact, look at Joe Biden 2 years ago and look at him today. Why do we have to have someone in their 80s running for office? Why can't they let go of the power and let a new generational leader come in there? Because they are grumpy old men. But I'll tell you, we can do better. So this is what I want you to do. You did this for me twice before when I ran for governor. I'm going to ask you to do it again. Go out and tell 10 people. Early voting starts, today's Saturday, Monday. Early voting starts Monday. Take people to the polls with you. Take them and let them know this is our moment. This is our chance. The way we win is there's more of us than them go to the polls, we win. It's that simple. And if you do that, if you get them there early, and we make sure that every one of our neighbors and friends and family know to go to NikkiHaley.com, volunteer, find out where your polling site is, take a yard sign, do whatever it takes to get the word out. Just imagine a country where they no longer waste your dollars and it's back in your pocket. Just imagine a country where we go back to the basics in education and have full transparency for parents to know what's being taught to their child. Just imagine a country where we secure our borders once and for all and become a country of laws again. Just imagine a country where we respect our men and women in law enforcement and the military, and we are proud again. And just imagine a war where we prevent wars and prevent our men and women in the military from going to war. We could have that. But also imagine a country where we don't have anger anymore. Imagine a country where we can actually talk to each other again. Imagine a country where you're not scared to turn on the TV and be told what to think, what to feel, and all of that. We can do this. Sometimes America has to hit rock bottom to know where up is. We're there. Now it's time for us to get to work. You know, someone asked me why I was running. And I said, my parents came here 50 years ago to an America that was strong and proud and full of opportunities. I want them to know that country again. I'm doing this for my husband, Michael, and his military brothers and sisters. They need to know their sacrifice matters. They need to know that we love our country. I'm doing this for my daughter, Rena, who's here with her today, and her husband, Josh, and I saw how hard it was for them to buy a home. The average home buyer in America now is 49 years old. The American dream is leaving them. And I'm doing this for my son, Naylan, who's also here. And he's a senior in college, and I am tired of watching him write papers of things he doesn't believe in just to get an A. That's not us. That's not America. And for the first time, 81% of Americans don't think their kids are going to live as good of a life as we did. We can't be okay with that. I'm not okay with that. We do have a country to save. But I'll promise you this. If you will join with me in this movement, if you will go out and tell 10 people and get them to the polls, I promise you, our best days are yet to come. Thank you, Newberry. God bless you.